Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is Sports Dom coming back with another video. And this is my Florida Atlantic Owls at Michigan State Spartans college football week 1 post-game recap. So it wasn't pretty. It was a really ugly game. Neither team could get anything going. Lots of penalties, a couple injuries for Michigan State, but they got some things to clean up. But the Michigan State Spartans, Jonathan Williams gets his first win as the Michigan State Spartans head coach, and the Michigan State Spartans beat the Florida Atlantic Owls 16-10. So let's go over the stats. Cam Thatcher, rushing, Cam Thatcher had 25 carries, 67 yards. Zibri Mobley had 10 carries, 36 yards. C.J. Campbell Jr. had 12 carries, 29 yards. So the Florida Atlantic Owls had 47 carries, 132 yards on the ground. Passing, Cam Fancher was 12 of 25 for 116 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Receiving, Amari Hayes had 5 receptions, 74 yards. Jay-Sean Platt, 2 receptions, 21 yards, and a touchdown. Dom Henry, 1 reception, 7 yards. C.J. Campbell Jr., 2 receptions, 6 yards. George Johnson, 1 reception, 5 yards. And Zibri Mobley had one reception, 3 yards. So, total, the Florida Atlantic Owls had 12 receptions for 116 yards and a tutty. Punting, Logan Lupo had 4 punts for 180 yards. And punt returns, Amari Hayes had 3 returns for 21 yards. Kick returns, Milan Tucker had 1 return for 16 yards. Defense, Wendell Fillard had 1 tackle, 1 solo. Cam Fancher, 1 tackle, 1 solo. C.J. Hurd, 2 tackles, 1 solo. Wilkie Denard, 1 tackle. Eddie Williams, 5 tackles, 1 solo, and a half a tackle for loss. Philip Dunham, 2 tackles, 1 solo, and an interception. Jaden Williams, 5 tackles, 2 solo, and a half a tackle for loss. Day Hill, 2 tackles. Bryce Langston, 1 tackle. Desmond Tisdall, 2 tackles, 1 solo. Amari Hayes, 1 tackle, 1 solo. Kazir Brown, 5 tackles, 1 solo, and an interception. Chisholm Ifinye, 3 tackles, 1 solo, and a half a tackle for loss. Jaden Wheeler, 5 tackles, 1 solo, and a tackle for loss. Dom Henry, 1 tackle, 1 solo. Michael Antoine, 2 tackles, 1 solo, and 1 interception. I'm sorry, 1 forced fumble. Jack Ambush had 10 tackles, 5 solo, and a half a tackle for loss. Jarrett Gerald's 2 tackles, 1 assist, or 1 solo. Chris Jones, 3 tackles, 3 solo, and 1 tackle for loss. Jacob Merrifield, 5 tackles, 1 solo. Devontae Davis, 2 tackles, 2 solo, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss, and 1 forced fumble. So the Florida Atlantic Owls had 61 tackles, 27 solo, 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. So, like I said, neither team could get anything going. Now for the Michigan State Spartans. Rushing, K'Ron Lynch Adams had 9 carries, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Nate Carter, 19 carries, 48 yards. Aiden Childs, 6 carries, 28 yards, and a touchdown. Jaron Glover, 1 carry, 6 yards. So the Michigan State Spartans had 37 carries, 179 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Passing, Aiden Childs went 10 of 24 for 114 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Receiving, Michael Masunis, 2 receptions, 29 yards. Montori Foster Jr., 3 receptions, 23 yards. Isaiah Johnson, one reception, 22 yards. Jack Belling, 1 reception, 15 yards. Alante Brown, 1 reception, 15 yards. Nick Marsh, 1 reception, 11 yards. Nate Carter, one reception, -1 yard. So the Michigan State Spartans had 10 receptions, 114 yards, and no touchdowns through the air. Punting, Ryan Eckley had 6 punts for 297 yards. His average was 49.5, and his long was 58. Punt returns, Montori Foster Jr. had 1 return for 2 yards. Kick returns, Alante Brown, 1 return for 33 yards. Defense, Charles Brantley had 2 tackles, 1 solo, and a half a tackle for loss. Alante Brown, 1 tackle. Nakai Martinez, 6 tackles, 5 solo, and an interception. Chris Bogle, 5 tackles, 3 solo, 1.5 sacks, and 2.5 tackles for loss. Ed Woods had 3 tackles, 2 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Nate Carter had 1 tackle, 1 solo. Jordan Hall, 3 tackles, 1 solo. Jordan Turner, 5 tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 1.5 tackles for loss. Anthony Jones, 3 tackles, 2 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Jalen Thompson, 1 tackle. Wayne Matthews, 3 tackles, 2 solo. Ken Taylor, 1 tackle, half a sack, and a half a tackle for loss. Angelo Gross, 12 tackles, 9 solo. He had 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. Dylan Tatum had 3 tackles, 3 solo. He got hurt. Darius Snow had 3 tackles, 2 solo. Cal Halliday had 5 tackles, 3 solo, and 1 tackle for loss. Avion Gross, 2 tackles, 2 solo. Malik Spencer, who got ejected for targeting, had 1 tackle. Caden Schickel, 2 tackles, 1 solo. Ruquan Buckley, 1 tackle. Alex Van Sumeren had 3 tackles, 2 solo, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. Daquan Deuce, 4 tackles, 1 solo, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. Maverick Hansen had 1 tackle. So the Michigan State Spartans had 71 tackles, 43 solo, 7 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. So Aiden Childs didn't look good, but he's only 18 years old. The Michigan State Spartans have an 18-year-old quarterback. They got a lot of things to clean up, a lot of personal foul penalties. They got to clean this up, and Aiden Childs has to get better. I know he's only 18, so we got to get it past. This is week 1. They're going to get better, and even the announcer said the Michigan State Spartans will be in a bowl this year. We just don't know which bowl. But Aiden Childs, like I said, is only 18 years old. My MVP of this game and my game ball goes to that defense. They were there when they needed to be. They got the key crucial stops that they needed to get. And I think this team is going to get better and better and better as the season goes on. As Aiden Childs gets better as the season goes on as well. As he develops is what I was trying to say. But Maryland is going to give Aiden Childs a big test. The Florida Atlantic Owls tested him too, but Uh, the Maryland Terrapins next weekend are going to pressure the hell out of this kid. Um, so I hope he's ready. But like I said, a lot of things to clean up, and hopefully they clean it up before their game in Maryland against the Maryland Terrapins next Saturday. Um, all in all, like I said, it's week one. I like some things. There were some things I didn't like. But Aiden Childs, he's a dual threat quarterback. He can beat you with his legs and with his arm. Uh, but he only had 10 completions out of 25 attempts. They only threw the ball 25 times. That Karen Lynch Adams, I like the way this kid runs. Him and Nate Carter, that 1-2 punch. I think Karen Lynch Adams should be the starter. I mean, he only had 9 carries. He had 101 yards and a touchdown. Nate Carter had 19 carries and only got 48 yards. Karen Lynch Adams had 101 yards on only 9 carries. But I did like what I saw. Some things out of Aiden Childs. But, he's young. 18 years old. And they're counting on him, to win them a bowl at 18 years old. I think they will be in a bowl, though, and I think they will win. But like I said, I think this team is only going to get better as the season goes on. I think Aiden Childs is going to have a better game next week in Maryland. I think the defense, is going to start clicking. The more they play together, the more they're gonna gel. I think once Aiden Childs gets the connection with his receivers, he's going to be just fine. He came over from Oregon State with Jonathan Smith. Jonathan Smith gets his first win as a Michigan State Spartans head football coach. So congratulations to Jonathan Smith. Florida Atlantic. This Florida Atlantic team came to play, but like I said, neither offense was looking good, and both quarterbacks. I mean, they only threw the ball 25 times. Michigan State threw the ball 24 times. So Cam Fancher was, like I said, 12 of 25 for 116 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And Aiden Childs was 10 of 24 for 114, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but he had a rushing touchdown. The Michigan State Spartans in week 1 get the win, 16-10 over the Florida Atlantic Owls. They're going to have a tough test, especially for an 18-year-old as your starting quarterback against the Maryland Terrapins. But I think Michigan State will play a better game. I think the defense is going to have to keep them in to give the Spartans a chance, and I think they're going to have to beat Maryland with their defense and with the run game, I think, because Aiden Childs was just overthrowing and underthrowing his receiver. But like I said, he's an 18-year-old kid. You can't, base off of this game. He was a backup at Oregon State, and when Jonathan Smith got hired as the head coach of the Michigan State Spartans, he wanted Aiden Childs as his quarterback. He wanted to develop Aiden Childs, and Aiden Childs is our quarterback, so we have to stick with him, and we have to watch him grow. First downs, Florida Atlantic had 19 first downs to Michigan State's 15. Rushing first downs, Florida Atlantic had 7, Michigan State 8. Passing first downs, Florida Atlantic 6, Michigan State 5. Penalty first downs, Florida Atlantic 6, Michigan State 2. Rushing, Florida Atlantic had 132 yards. Michigan State 179 yards. Attempts, Florida Atlantic had 47 rushing attempts. Michigan State 37. Average yards per rush, Florida Atlantic 2.8. Michigan State 4.8. So Michigan State was the better team on the ground and in the air. Passing, Florida Atlantic had 116 yards, Michigan State 114. Attempts, Florida Atlantic 25, Michigan State 24. Completions, Florida Atlantic Owls 12, Michigan State Spartans 10. Interceptions, 2 apiece. Average yards per pass, Florida Atlantic 9.7, Michigan State 11.4. Total offense, the Florida Atlantic Owls had 293 total yards of offense, while Michigan State Spartans had 248. Plays, Florida Atlantic 72, Michigan State 61. Average yards per play, 4.1 apiece. Fumbles, Florida Atlantic had 2 fumbles, none lost. Michigan State had 2 fumbles, 1 lost. Penalties, the Florida Atlantic Owls had 5 penalties for 55 yards. Michigan State 12 penalties, 140 yards. Punting, the Florida Atlantic Owls had 4 punts for 158 yards. Michigan State 6 punts for 256 yards. Average yards per punt, Florida Atlantic 45, Michigan State 49.5. The Florida Atlantic Owls had three punt returns for 21 yards. Michigan State Spartans 1 punt return for 2 yards. The Florida Atlantic Owls had 1 kickoff return for 16 yards. The Michigan State Spartans 1 kickoff return for 33 yards. Interception return numbers, the Florida Atlantic Owls had 2 interceptions for 58 yards, and the Michigan State Spartans 2 interceptions, 56-yard returns on the interceptions. Third down conversions, the Florida Atlantic Owls were 2 for 14, the Michigan State Spartans were 3 for 13. Fourth down conversions, the Florida Atlantic Owls were 2 for 5, the Michigan State Spartans were 1 for 2. So Jonathan Smith gets his first win as head coach of the Michigan State Spartans. 16-10, the Michigan State Spartans defeat the Florida Atlantic Owls, and they get ready. The Michigan State Spartans go to Maryland next week to take on the Maryland Terrapins. So like I said, a lot to clean up. 12 penalties for 140 yards that's not good, and they had like 3 or 4 personal foul penalties, so that they have to clean up. They were very undisciplined, but I think Jonathan Smith is going to sit them down and tell them, listen, this game was very ugly. We played an undisciplined game. And I know Jonathan Smith didn't let the Oregon State Beavers play like this. I know he didn't. But it's week 1. It's their first game. This team hasn't played together yet. Aiden Childs, he's going to get better. Like I said, he's an 18-year-old kid. He's going to get better. And this team will get better as the season goes on. But I want to see improvement against Maryland next week in Maryland. And then we come home to play the Prairie View A&M Panthers. So that should be a good game. But I want to see them come out with a win in Maryland next Saturday, play a better game. I think the defense and the running game is going to have to be the ones to beat the Maryland Terrapins. I did like what I saw, though. Some stuff out of Aiden Childs, I like that he's a mobile quarterback. He's not afraid to run. Like I said, he had a rushing touchdown. And then uh, what's his name there? K'Ron Lynch Adams also had a running touchdown, a 63-yard touchdown return. Um, but like I said, week one, they'll clean it up. Jonathan Smith will get them going where they need to be. But next week is going to be a good test for 18-year-old Aiden Childs and this offense. He's going to connect better on his reads. This team hasn't played together. They said there's 61 new players on the Michigan State Spartans this year, so it's going to take some time, but they'll get clicking. And like I said in my preview video, they're going to get better as the season goes on. And I think Aiden Childs will get better as the season goes on. But my MVP and my game ball goes to the Michigan State defense. Hopefully, and I got to give a shout out to K'Ron Lynch Adams and Aiden Childs for the rushing touchdowns. But I want to see Aiden Childs get a couple of passing touchdowns next week in Maryland, and I want to see them run the ball, and I want to see this defense play even better. And I want to see the team as a whole play better against the Maryland Terrapins, because Maryland is no joke. But a win is a win. 16-10. The Michigan State Spartans defeat the Florida Atlantic Owls. And congratulations to Jonathan Smith getting his first win as the Michigan State Spartans head football coach. So guys, comment in the comment section below on what you think. And as always, if you like my videos, like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss a video. Stay tuned for my Michigan State Spartans at Maryland Terrapins preview. Should be a fun game. I'm hoping that the Michigan State Spartans come out with a win. It is on the road. Maryland Terrapins are a good football team. Aiden Childs has to play better. This defense has to play more disciplined. Can't take all these penalties. And but like I said, I think Jonathan Smith and his coaching staff will get them playing better as the season progresses. I still think we're a 6-7 win team. I do. And even the announcers said the Michigan State Spartans will be in a bowl. It's just going to depend on, which bowl. I wouldn't mind playing in the Holiday Bowl. I wouldn't mind playing in the Pinstripe Bowl. Basically any bowl that we get into. And I wouldn't mind playing this Florida Atlantic team again, in a bowl. But yeah, we got a lot of things to clean up, but it'll get better. Michigan State fans, you got a good quarterback. You got a good coach. I mean, our quarterback is 18 years old. We got to give him time. We got to let this kid develop. And Jonathan Kim, our kicker, is returned. But the defense was the story of this game. So comment, like, subscribe. Go Spartans. Good win. Clean it up. And let's get ready to take on the Maryland Terrapins. Go Spartans. With a 16-10 win over the Florida Atlantic Owls.